The last day of summer, chapter 12, maneuver number 38. There were side doors in the library, and they became clogged with everyone attempting to squeeze through. Mr. Flux seemed unconcerned with the fleeing clock watchers. He was tugging the time-suck's hair the way a cowboy tugs the reins of a horse, directing the beast toward one particular clock watcher, Father Time. The bearded man became wide-eyed with fear. Tucking his sacred yearbook into his robes, he ran feet first left, then right, if he couldn't decide which frightened crowd he wanted to join. Mr. Flux grinned, his mouth packed with too many teeth like the big bad wolf. He skulked the beast closer to Father Time. "We have to help him," said she. Otto said, "How?" A coiled length of rope was still looped over Sheed's shoulder. He shrugged it off and passed one end to Otto, pointing at a support column near their hiding place. He pointed again, this time to another support column across the room. Otto understood. Sheed wanted to use the rope to trip the beast. Acting quickly, Otto tied the rope low around the nearest support column with his best knot. Tying the other end would be more troublesome. Mr. Flux would see them. Unless... "A.M. P.M.," Otto whispered. The golden hours appeared at his side almost out of thin air, their light speed making them faster than the eye could see, which was exactly what they needed. Sheed said, "Can you two get this rope tied around that pole way over there, without the man on the time suck seeing you?" The golden hours nodded. "Of course." Otto said, "Wait until he's moving at the last possible second, okay?" "Certainly." Mr. Flux did not rush. Being the meanie that he was, he moved slowly, getting great pleasure from Father Time's fear. The old clock watcher shook like a freezing chicken beneath his flapping robe. "You thought these books were going to help you, old man," said Mr. Flux. "That I'd sit back and let you ruin my opportunity. There is wisdom in the pages." Father Time's voice was as shaky as his body. "Why are you terrorizing us? Why are you upsetting the natural order of things?" "Perhaps the natural order of things upset me first." Mr. Flux dug his heels into Time-suck's sides, spurring it forward. Otto and Sheed said, "Now!" A.M. and P.M. vanished, and then the rope snapped tight across the library floor, anchored to the far post, where the golden hours gave Otto and Sheed a thumbs up. Neither Mr. Flux nor the beast saw the fresh trap, and the creature's legs tangled, snagged by the line. It tipped forward, its snout dipping between its own feet until it was in an uncontrollable roll that hurled Mr. Flux across the room. While he flew, Father Time stepped out of the sliding beast's path, and it collided with the far wall, destroying it as it burst out, then down, since the library was on the school's top floor. The beast took lots of debris with it, from single bricks to whole chunks of the building that looked like big old puzzle pieces. Before the pieces refroze, paused in midair, a brick and concrete avalanche trail locked in time all the way to the ground. The tough time suck recovered from the fall quickly, though it was a bit wobbly on those thick legs. Free of Mr. Flux, it proceeded to graze in a nearby field. Otto wondered if they should follow its lead and make their escape. Mr. Flux was laid out on a toppled non-fiction shelf. His stretchy arms and legs rested limply on dislodged volumes. She'd yanked the knot loose from the post. "Now!" Otto ran to undo the other end so they could bind the rubbery menace and get some answers. Mr. Flux groaned, still stunned from impact. Other clock watchers peeked from under tables and behind chairs and from other hiding places. Anticipation buzzed through the room. The cousins tugged the rope tight between them, prepared to pounce. "1," mouthed Otto. "2," mouthed Sheed. "3," shouted Mr. Flux, his eyes popping open like window shades. The boys screamed. The clock watchers screamed. Mr. Flux screamed, but his scream was threaded with laughter. Bullies loved terrorizing those around them. Mr. Flux's bent knees straightened, lifting the rest of his body to a standing position in a way no normal human could have ever managed. Upright, he reached for his discarded hat, which lay at his feet. His arm bubblegum stretched. Once the brim was pinched between his thumb and forefinger, the arm retracted like fishing line on a reel. He placed the hat on his head, taking his time to adjust the fit. As he did, more clock watchers fled the room. Otto and Sheed exchanged terrified glances, but would not run. Without saying another word, they executed maneuver number 21, stand your ground. They'd worked too hard to get a lead on Mr. Flux to simply turn tail. That was not what legends did. "Well, aren't you the brave ones?" Mr. Flux chortled. Sheed said, "You're going to help us fix time." "I already did. You wanted more summer, now you have all you can ever stand." "You tricked us," Otto said. "You're a dirty trickster." Now, all that name-calling is beneath you." Mr. Flux took a step closer, almost in range for some rope wrangling. While you're saying nasty things to me, you could be enjoying all the time you have left. What's that supposed to mean? Said she. Oh, said Mr. Flux, I like you two so much I'm thinking I don't want to ever see you change. Another picture may be in order to preserve you just the way you are. His hand snapped forward like a frog's tongue snatching a passing fly, grasping for the camera still dangling from Otto's neck. His fingers folded around it like spider legs as he attempted to rip it from Otto. The canvas and leather strap around Otto's neck held strong, and Otto backpedaled while She'd rushed forward, still gripping his length of rope. She'd, using the natural athleticism his gangly legs allowed, circled Mr. Flux twice, looping the rope around his calves. Hey, stop that, Mr. Flux said, distracted. While she drew his attention, Otto slipped free of Flux's grip. With his part of the rope, he ran around Mr. Flux in the opposite direction, doubling the loops around his legs. She'd snapped his section of rope like a whip, and it lassoed Mr. Flux's left arm. Otto performed a similar move on the other side, snagging the right arm. Maneuver number 38, rope wrangling. The boys moved like a couple of dancers in a well-rehearsed routine until most of their rope wound around Mr. Flux, mummy style. Otto wrapped his remaining length around Flux's hand and leaned back, drawing the rope tight. She did the same on Mr. Flux's other side, so they both looked like contestants in a game of tug-of-war, where Mr. Flux was the bowed ribbon at the center of the rope. We've got you, said Otto, triumphant and straining. Now, if you answer our questions and help us fix time, we might let you go back where you came from. She'd said, Otto, stop talking trash and let's get this rope tied to something. Otto tugged on his rope extra hard. We won. He's not going anywhere. Mr. Flux, sad-faced and defeated, said, He's right, you know. See, said Otto in his boastful Otto way. The entangled Flux said, I'm not going anywhere. In a sudden burst of movement and strength, Mr. Flux spun on his heels. Otto and She'd were yanked off their feet, colliding with one another. As they bounced off each other, they lost their grips on the rope, and it was sucked into the Mr. Flux cyclone, which spun in such a blur he was more like wind than man. When he slowed and settled, his limbs were free again, and the rope was thrown aside. He snatched the hat from his head, tipped it towards the boys, and bowed like a showman, thanking his audience. Ta-da! Grinning a malicious grin, he straightened and replaced the hat atop his head. Now, boys, for my next trick, I'm going to make you two little problems disappear. He leapt forward, his fingers curled into claws, grasping for Otto's neck.